The 2023 Formula One season has been nothing short of spectacular, with jaw-dropping races and mind-boggling performances from some of the sport's biggest stars. However, one team is dominating the track, and that's none other than Red Bull Racing. Despite their impressive performances, tensions are starting to rise within the team. In the recent Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Sergio Perez expressed his displeasure with the team's decision. What really happened, and why was Perez so furious? Stay tuned to find out. No doubt, Red Bull has been the dominant package early in the 2023 F1 campaign. During pre-season testing in Bahrain, drivers Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez showcased their impressive skills, setting the stage for what would be an impressive start to the season. The team's dominance was evident when they secured the front row in qualifying for the season-opening Bahrain Grand Prix and went on to finish 1-2 in the race, with Verstappen leading the way. The momentum continued into the second race of the season in Saudi Arabia, with Verstappen and Perez showing impressive form in practice sessions. However, a mechanical failure during qualifying saw Verstappen's car suffer a drive shaft failure, leaving him in 15th position for the start of the Grand Prix. This setback didn't deter the Dutch driver, who showed his tenacity and skill as he charged through the field to secure a second-place finish behind his teammate Perez, who started the race from pole position. The impressive start to the season has put Red Bull Racing at the top of the constructors' standings, with both Verstappen and Perez occupying the top two spots in the Drivers' Championship. During the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez were given lap time targets in order to secure a 1-2 finish. However, Verstappen had other ideas. As the race entered its closing stages, Verstappen started pushing harder and faster than his teammate Perez, who was following the team's lap time targets. The defending world champion inquired about who had posted the fastest lap and disregarded instructions to maintain a specific lap time. The team had instructed both drivers to aim for a lap time of 1:33.20, but Verstappen was running laps in the 1:32.60 range, almost half a second quicker than the instructed pace. This deviation from the team's strategy raised questions about Verstappen's intentions, and Perez was left wondering whether his teammate was being instructed to run at a faster pace. On the race's final lap, Verstappen posted the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, securing that additional point and keeping himself atop the standings. It meant Verstappen retained his lead over his teammate in the championship standings after the first two races of the year. It could be significant if a close title race between the two Red Bull drivers occurs as the season progresses. Verstappen was the last of the trio who made it to the podium to reach the cooldown room after giving his trackside interview at the end of the race. Perez and Alonso were standing chatting in Spanish when the Dutchman walked in, placed his helmet in Alonso's seat, and quickly plopped in the chair reserved for the race winner Perez. He then said it wasn't easy in the beginning, just following the other cars through the sectors. You lose so much because of the tail impact. Alonso asked him if the safety car had helped, to which he replied, yes, I would say. I would have caught up, but it made it easier. But Perez only had one thing on his mind. Did you get the fastest lap in the end, he asked, prompting a nod from his teammate, who replied, on the last lap, yeah. I asked what the fastest lap was, and I think it was a 10th faster. Perez had no response, so Alonso, as he sat down next to Verstappen, asked, do you know what you did? And the Dutchman said 31.9, referring to his fastest lap time, which denied the Mexican an extra point. Moments later, during the post-race press conference, the Red Bull drivers were asked about the battle for the fastest lap and that extra point in the standings. Here is what they had to say. Verstappen said,
with a few laps ago, I asked what the fast lap was. I think we were first of all, free to race, and of course we had a target lap time to the end. But there's a point on the line. It was the same also in Bahrain. It got asked, so yeah, especially when it's just between the two cars, I think it's quite normal that you ask for what the fastest lap is.
Perez had a slightly different viewpoint. Perez said,
yeah, I asked, and 2 laps from the end, while they were telling us where they told me to keep a certain pace, they told me I had the fastest lap and to keep the pace, a certain pace. So I thought the communication was the same to Max. So something we need to review, because I got certainly the different information and I just couldn't push there in the end.
Of course, the events in Jeddah bring to mind last season's Brazilian Grand Prix. In the closing laps at Interlagos, Verstappen was given a command from his team to move aside and let Perez pass him. By this point in the season, Verstappen had locked up the Drivers' Championship and Perez was in battle for second, with Charles Leclerc of Ferrari. Verstappen, however, ignored the request. As he came across the line ahead of his teammate, he let his feelings on the matter be known.
I told you already last time, you guys don't ask that again to me, okay? Are we clear about that? I gave my reasons, and I stand by it.
Perez let his own frustrations be heard. Perez said, "I don't understand why he didn't give me the position, even with everything I've done for him. If he has 2 titles, it's because of my help." In the days and weeks since that race, Red Bull has maintained that the air was cleared between the 2 drivers. Team principal Christian Horner discussed the tension between the 2 drivers in the days after the Grand Prix and had this to say about the incident over the off-season. The drivers had a good conversation after the race in Brazil. The air was absolutely clear. You could see that by the time they arrived in Abu Dhabi, and I think this has been a phenomenal pairing for Red Bull. They're both pretty grown-up individuals, and they both have an open relationship with each other. So whenever there is an issue, it gets discussed. It gets put on the table, and you talk it through. The problem facing Horner right now is that Red Bull is the dominant force on the grid, and as such, their 2 drivers may be squaring off all season for the Drivers' Championship, with Verstappen seeking his 3rd straight title and Perez trying to nab his 1st. We have seen similar championship fights between teammates before, most recently with Mercedes. In both 2014 and 2016, teammates Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton, who grew up karting together and were once friends, battled it out atop the drivers' standings. That friendship slowly turned sour as a result. Hamilton won titles in both 2014 and 2015, but it was Rosberg who nipped his teammate at the end of the 2016 campaign for the championship, a title fight that included a dramatic collision between the 2 at the Spanish Grand Prix, knocking both from the race. In the final race of that season, the 2016 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Hamilton was just 12 points behind Rosberg entering the Grand Prix, leaving it all to fight for on the track. In the closing laps, Hamilton was in 1st place, with Rosberg a few spots behind him. If Hamilton went on to win, and Rosberg finished 4th or worse in the Grand Prix, the championship was Hamilton's. The race leader slowed his pace, trying to bunch up Rosberg and keep him pinned in the group behind. But the team, seeing a hard-charging Sebastian Vettel, instructed Hamilton to pick up his pace. With the Drivers' Championship in his mind, Hamilton ignored the request. Hamilton did win the Grand Prix, but Rosberg picked up enough places to win the championship. He would shockingly retire at the end of the season, stating he had achieved his goal of becoming an F1 champion. Now, both drivers were asked about the potential of a Red Bull duel for the Drivers' Championship at the close of their post-race press conference in Jeddah, and seemed to brush aside the notion that such a battle would be a bad thing. Verstappen said, "Well, if that's the case, it's fairly simple, right? We are allowed to race, so the best one will finish in front." Perez added, "If that's the case, then it will be fantastic news for the team because that means that we are pretty far ahead and it comes down to us, so it will mean that we are in a great position." Yet, something else Verstappen said during that press conference is also worth illuminating. He said, "And of course, in general, the whole feeling in the team, everyone is happy, but personally, I'm not happy because I'm not here to be second, especially when you're working very hard also back at the factory to make sure that you arrive here in a good state and basically making sure that everyone is spot on. And then you have to do a recovery race, which I like. I mean, I don't mind doing it, but when you're fighting for a championship, and especially, when it looks like it's just between 2 cars, we have to make sure that also the 2 cars are reliable. Those years at Mercedes highlight the tension that can grow when a team has the superior package to the rest of the field and the double-edged sword that entails. Balancing that double-edged sword is now the challenge ahead of Horner. How well he does so could be the difference between this remaining a dream season for the Bulls or that dream becoming a nightmare. Now over to you. What's your thought about the Verstappen-Perez rivalry? Does Perez have a chance against Verstappen? Let us know in the comment section below. That will be all for today's video. Thanks for staying tuned. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so that you can always get to watch more amazing videos like this. See you in the next video.